After a decent hiatus, True Detective is back for a season 4, this time with Jodie Foster and Callie Reis in the lead roles. Now, Night Country, it is a twisting mystery that could keep you guessing all the way through. So grab a parka, let's dive in. When 8 researchers at Tsalal Station suddenly disappear, Police Chief Danvers orders a search but tempers expectations of finding the men, all while Trooper Navarro tries to convince a skeptical Danvers that the men's disappearance is connected to the murder of local activist Annie Kowtok, a case that has long gone cold. So I'm going to be pretty vague about any specifics in this since it's a weekly release. Now, I've watched all 6 episodes, so I can let you know if it's worth it or not. If you've never seen True Detective, each season focuses on a different set of investigators working some sort of case. And while the cases are important to the story, the real focal point of each season is the detectives themselves, how they operate, how their flaws challenge their case, and even sometimes each other. Plus, these are typically large character studies that are complex, detailed, and dark, all while a mystery is also being worked. Now here, we have Jodie Foster and Callie Reis as Danvers and Navarro, respectively. They have a history together, and they're typically antagonistic towards each other. Now, the setting is this fictional town of Ennis, Alaska, and the story begins when the sun is about to set for a ton of days, just plunging the whole region into continual darkness. Now, the story opens and then focuses on a scientific research station where all of the scientists, they suddenly disappear, which then obviously causes distress and alarm. But because of some clues, Trooper Navarro believes this disappearance could be tied to a cold case of a murdered local woman. Now, Jodie Foster, she is outstanding, as you would expect, but don't think that you're going to like her much of the time. She's very damaged, and we get short flashback glimpses of possibly why, but she is abrasive and clashes with just about everyone she comes in contact with. Now, this can be aggravating for the storytelling because it typically stunts conversations and ends them prematurely, leaving us as the audience just desperately waiting for the answer that doesn't come, at least right then. And really, that's something to keep in mind here. The dialogue is such that it's frustrating because it mimics real conversations, where we don't fully name the thing that we're talking about because we already have context, and it would be weird to just continually speak directly of the thing that's already known. The show also ekes out the clues and information so that we kind of wait with bated breath for those reveals. And we do get answers. I mean, there's a solid conclusion that explains just about everything. I mean, some moments aren't necessarily crucial to the mystery and they don't get a total full explanation, but for the parts that really matter, it's answered. So if you find yourself kind of in the middle of the series, questioning whether or not you should turn it off because of just the lack of progress or maybe the answers, keep going. You are going to get them. Now, I don't think I've seen Callie Reis in anything before. She was outstanding. I mean, she has an awesome range of emotions that she needs to portray, and I felt them. Even though she's very tough and a hardened character, Navarro is also much softer and more sympathetic than Danvers, which I think makes them great counterparts. And I don't think, though, that Navarro is meek or timid or weak. I mean, she can whip butt and tear someone down. She's just way more friendly and compassionate in comparison to Danvers. Now, their dynamic, it's also somewhat toxic and very dysfunctional. But they can also work well together, which I think is good because most of the time, Danvers can't work well with anyone. There's another character in this, Officer Peter Pryor, played by Finn Bennett, and I really liked him and his story arc for the most part. Occasionally, though, his line delivery felt like he was unsure of his dialogue, like he was just searching for the words. Now, sometimes that worked because of the situation. Other times, though, when it wasn't a tense or awkward moment, he still felt like he couldn't remember his lines. Now, I know this isn't totally detrimental to the show, but it did stand out to me more than once. We're also introduced to several other characters played by seasoned actors like John Hawkes and Christopher Eccleston. Now, I liked what they brought to the story, but portions of their characters are kind of left vague, especially when it comes to their dynamic with Foster's Danvers. Now, there is a lot of unspoken context that I do appreciate because the story doesn't spoon-feed us all of the info. But at times, certain sequences and interactions feel like they could have been removed and the trajectory of the plot wouldn't be harmed too much. I mean, really, that's just a nitpick because overall, I was captivated by the storytelling. This is patient and intense, slowly uncovering details and not rushing the progression. What also helps this pacing is the setting. Now, I already said it's a fictional town in Alaska, but this was filmed in Iceland, And what we get is a surrounding that genuinely feels cold. I mean, the blizzard-like conditions combined with the lack of daylight create a lonely and foreboding atmosphere. It's almost hopeless as we're shown just this vast landscape where the ground is white, the horizon, it just simply disappears, and then the visibility is just about nil thanks to the forceful wind that's blowing snow across the plane of view. Now, the elements are very much an antagonistic character in this, and it's all captured extremely well. The cinematography just creates imagery filled with melancholy and sadness. Now, each of the episodes is around an hour, with the finale being well over that. Now, I had the luxury of binging the entire season, but each episode, I think it's certainly event-worthy, meaning, that watching week to week as each episode is released, I think it's going to be satisfying and will have you impatiently waiting for more. Now, there is one element in this that had me scratching my head through a lot of the show, and that's some imagery that's shown to us. Now, these feel like they could take us out of reality, but the show is grounded, just like the other previous seasons. The infusion of culture, I think it's awesome, and it provides unique exposure to traditions that we aren't typically exposed to, like throat singing. I mean, it's a beautiful and haunting addition to the series that fits perfectly within the setting and then adds a true-to-life aesthetic to the narrative. I think I'm going to stop here just so that I don't get into any more plot specifics other than that general overview. But once the season is concluded in March, I'm pretty sure my friend Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday and I are going to be talking about this in detail on our weekly podcast. So overall, True Detective Night Country is a riveting character study that uses the isolated setting of rural Alaska to hone in on flawed and damaged characters forced to confront their pasts and presents. Jodie Foster and Callie Reis are phenomenal as oppositional and antagonistic partners, each facing their demons. The storytelling patiently uncovers clues to the mystery, sometimes frustratingly dangling progress without answers to create anticipation for the next episode. And while some character interactions are less necessary than they appear, the character dynamics combined with daunting cinematography work together to create a captivating story of intrigue while steeping us in heritage, culture, and realism. There's sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and a lot of violence. I give True Detective Night Country 4.5 out of 5 couches. This is another extremely strong entry in the True Detective series. I hope you enjoy it like I did. So, have you watched the other seasons of this show? Do you have a favorite season? Let me know what it is in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.